On the next podium, coexistence and mutual understanding, building a culture based on Fethullah Gulen's concepts. Turkish ambassador to Nigeria, Rifat Köksal, leads a chorus of world voices as representatives from more than a dozen nations call for words to be put into action. Moving beyond tolerance, it's being trumpeted as a pathway to peace. It's an hour that could change the world, and it's on the next podium.
People in their right.
A two-day conference titled Establishing a Culture of Coexistence and Mutual Understanding, Exploring Fethullah Gulen's Thought and Action, got underway in Nigeria's capital on Friday. Scholars from 13 different countries have gathered for the conference at the Transcorp Hilton Hotel in Abuja.
Of I and other, and also the tendency to learn from each other, in fact.
The event has been organized by Abuja-based Ufuk Dialogue Foundation and The Fountain Magazine, a bi-monthly magazine of scientific and spiritual thought. The conference kicked off with the singing of the Nigerian national anthem, followed by a welcome address from Turkish ambassador to Nigeria, Rifat Köksal.
I believe this conference is a significant step in this direction, gathering together scholars, academicians, and community leaders around the world under the theme of establishing a culture of coexistence and mutual understanding. It is not a coincidence that Turkish foreign policy guidance is based on peace at home and peace abroad, set out by Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, founder of Turkish Republic. Our nation has enjoyed for centuries intercultural understanding, building of harmony, tolerance, and humanitarian approach for bridging the differences.
Due to illness, famed Turkish scholar Fethullah Gulen, who was to be the keynote speaker at the conference, sent his greetings from America. Gulen's message was read by a member of the conference's organizing committee, Professor Kiari Mohammed.
Regardless of what the title of the conference seems to be addressing, I would like to offer my deepest respects to everyone who is supporting this event, which will hopefully be a forum on important issues such as global peace, more importantly, the harmony, education, dialogue, and societal concord in Africa, particularly in Nigeria. Taking this opportunity, I also would like to express my deepest appreciation to our Nigerian friends, statesmen and academics, not only for making this conference become a reality, but also for welcoming schools and teachers opened by Turkish entrepreneurs in Nigeria, a country that has a crucial role in Africa with its great population and a strategic geographic position, a country that has enormous potential to be an exemplary land with its rich ethnic, cultural, and religious mosaic. The movement of volunteers has been researched by many scholars in many countries, and numerous conferences have been dedicated to explore the service activities undertaken for the benefit of all humanity. While I do not believe that I have contributed very much to their good services, I consider myself very fortunate that the volunteers of this movement consider me among themselves, and I consider the use of my humble name in the titles of these conferences, especially this one, as an indication of their good faith and generosity. These selfless souls work tirelessly with a sincere heart to promote goodness and to serve humanity, without any expectations in return. Their commendable work contributes to world peace and deserves recognition and appreciation. Your diligent work, hand in hand, for the future isles of peace and a world of serenity that will rise on universal values, raises hope for the spread of these good services and you will carry us to vast horizons of reunion, reconciliation of our diverse cultures and civilizations. The human possesses an essence fermented with goodness and beauty. I strongly believe that one day we will attain that high level of humanity this essence calls us to. We are tired of wars, conflicts, blood, and violence. Humanity is now ready for a universal dialogue and peace. And I further believe we currently stand at a historic moment to foster these goals. All constructive and good-intentioned efforts to reach this goal are worthy of praise. Your efforts devoted to building peace isles and establishing a culture of coexistence through this conference will be duly appreciated by the peoples of Nigeria and Turkey, as well as by like-minded individuals around the world, regardless of their nationalities. I'm deeply saddened for being unable to participate in this exceptional event that I wholeheartedly support, not only due to my unfavorable general health, but also due to my embarrassment arising from my not being actively involved even in 1% of all these good services. With these humble sentiments, I once again offer my thanks to the organizers and wish you a successful conference, which I believe will contribute to a better world, paving the way for eternal happiness at a time when we need mercy, compassion, mutual understanding, and a peaceful world most. M. Gulen.
The Nigerian Minister of Education, Professor Rukayatu Ahmed Rufai, emphasized the importance of the conference's message. She said coexistence and mutual understanding would create a pathway to world peace.
Well, I'm very happy with this conference. This is a conference that is coming at the right time, establishing a culture of peaceful coexistence. We cannot have this conference better than now. It is a conference that is actually calling on all religions, all various cultures to come together to establish peace, and that emphasizing that there is no need for any violence. Anything can be settled peacefully. So it is a very good opportunity for us here in Nigeria that Turkey or the Turkish schools here in Nigeria are partnering with us at the Federal Ministry of Education to come up with this very important conference. We are very happy about it.
The conference organizers stressed that Nigeria is an important place to hold the conference due to its cultural diversity and the rising Hizmet volunteer movement within the country.
There is a huge misconception about Islam. This misconception is one of the main causes for widening the gap between Muslims and non-Muslims. If we add to that misconception another fact or another problem, which is the misrepresentations of Muslims sometimes,
and he sees tolerance as indispensable to it. Democracy is described as a system that gives everyone who is under its wing the opportunity to live and express their own feelings and thought. He further believes that democracy is out of the question where tolerance does not exist. It is not possible for democracy to take root in a place where there is no tolerance. In fact, advocates of democracy should be able to accept even those who do not, says Gulen, share their views, and they should open their hearts to others. Now, democracy is defined by pluralism and not secularism. 2/3 of our global population have challenging collaborative work to do. Dialogue, which is close to Gulen's heart. And much of that will be around interpretation and will need to address tolerance and global action. Democracy and human rights will be key to a more peaceful global civilization, and neither will exist without tolerance.
Why Gulen-inspired businessmen and intellectuals also publish newspapers and deal with daily political issues also. You will see in the end that a newspaper is in fact a school at large. We are continuing on our educational activities in the pages of our newspapers. As as much as we do have good news in the newspapers, if we have good news in TV channels, this also creates a general aura of education where the future generations believe in the general goodness of human nature, in the general mercy and passionate of God Almighty unto His creation.
And Gulen has spoken with courage and attracted great following. Both also contextualize their messages within their environments, taking note of their social political context. And another challenges. What are the challenges we can draw from Gulen and Jesus to the Nigerian situation? As I said, Gulen has called our attention to a return to the true teachings of faith, whether they are Christian or Muslims today in Nigeria. Rediscovering virtues such as love, tolerance, dialogue, and peaceful coexistence. 2, Gulen's influence and impact in modern Turkey today projects positive role of religious leaders that leads to a pathway towards transformation that Nigeria badly needs today, that can be a model for us to evolve. Gulen has also challenged us in Nigeria for a need of change of mindset, the need for service, social responsibility, and commitment to common good. Gulen today has challenged us to live as true religious people, which we claim to be in Nigeria, to live with example, because there is need to live what we preach.
Religious people in particular, and others in general, there is a need for a proper education. As I have seen that there is not just an education, but it should be a character education. And we have seen that Fethullah Gulen, and I have seen that he is not just only a Muslim scholar, but I see that he's a charismatic leader, where we can see that his thoughts are related not only to the material aspect of life, but as well as to the development of the spiritual aspect of life.
Trying to hold this conversation about peace, about tolerance, in an environment where law is not respected. So essentially, at best, we are like a blind man in a dark room chasing a cat. Right? And because a lot of the issues that we are ascribing to religion have absolutely nothing to do with religion. In Nigeria, because the state itself has collapsed and has totally lost its capacity,
we visited Gulen schools. We also visited the Fetish University, which embraces Gulen's thoughts. We found students who were at ease with each other, at peace. Gulen also emphasizes science education. He does not think that science and technology should be removed from the rest of society. These students take international competitions in science and technology, and they win awards. So at the same time, they get moral education, spiritually based education in their schools. So again, this is something to build for the future. The education for young means that the leaders of tomorrow are being built with moral education. For intellectuals, education also provides a way of dialogue between different civilizations. So what these two approaches, that is the civil society approach and the approach through education, show us is that this society is building a sustained situation for future peace and development in Turkey. And this is possible elsewhere in Nigeria.
With a focus on civil society is essential, Gulen has argued, and he said that in this age of human rights, liberalism, democracy, and so on, Islam doesn't need a state to survive. With civil society enterprises, civil society activities, Islam can flourish even in the atheist countries, even in the most secular countries, and the institutions of the Gulen movement are simply clear manifestations of this discourse of Gulen.
Today we can say that such theoretical concept has been shaped. The modern political practice proves that the most convincing position is Fethullah Gulen's one, for he believes that fundamentals of Islamic political theory don't contradict political democratic reforms in contemporary Muslim world, but can contribute to it. Fethullah Gulen stresses on understanding political reforms in the Muslim world not in a spirit of formal, dogmatic Islamic Sharia provisions, but in the light of fundamental principles and values of Islam, their sense and meaning to ensure the maintenance of leading Islamic ideas in our days. Islamic principles of equality, tolerance, and justice can help in this regard, provided that the injunctions of the Holy Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet, as well as any other definite Sharia judgments, are re-examined, rebuilt, and restored in light of advancing knowledge and changing societies. Fethullah Gulen, together with the other prominent Muslim thinkers, played the decisive role in this evolution. He has his own views on all mentioned issues of the legal and political development of Muslim world. In particular, Fethullah Gulen believes that the only prospects for the Muslim world's political development and stability depend on its democratic transformation. Democracy has developed over time, he writes. Just as it has done through many different stages in the past, it will continue to evolve and improve in the future. Along the way, it will be shaped into a more human and just system, one based on rightness and reality.
It doesn't take into the consideration of the dialogue among the everyday value, in fact. And one of the fundamental concerns of Fethullah Gulen is how to make dialogue as an everyday value system. And every day, this is not something has to be structured. This is not something to be arranged. This is not something has to be negotiated between the two people in the two parties, in fact. This is not something to base between the textual info, because the moment you say textual, you actually what you take is that you somehow prioritize your own ideology and your theory over the practice, in fact. And therefore, what actually comes from the Fethullah Gulen model is that there's a remarkable recognition of the moral equality of all forms of the practice, customs, and the traditions and the religion. Not only the religions in the textual form, and I think one has to make a remarkable distinction between the religion in the textual form and as a religion as it operates in the oral traditions, in fact. That we are actually living in the education deficient world. And if the modernity has actually achieved the very high stage of professionalism, and if the modernity, and therefore you know that the entire Fethullah Gulen conception, it is remarkable engagement with the modernity, not the rejection of the modernity. It's a remarkable critical engagement with the modernity. And in this critical engagement with the modernity, what actually comes out is very simple, is that certainly we should achieve a very high level of professionalism, but also with a sense of humanity, but also with a sense of justice, with also sense of ethical, with also sense of the morality. So how the morality and ethical conception of the good life, and only through this educational system, we should be in a position to create a very moral human being. And therefore what comes out through this interfaith dialogue and intercultural is nothing but an advancement of educational goal. And that goal is the principle of assertion of the unity, of the harmony, as well as the complementarity between the religious and the secular knowledge. And therefore he debunked the entire binary principle of the modernity, in fact. The modernity as a thought process, modernity as a philosophy, modernity has actually stood on the principle of binary, progressive versus reactionaries, secular versus religious, black versus white, this versus that. This binary has to be eliminated. And therefore, if you want to really very holistic, very humanistic, you have to combine both these principles. That's number one. I see the relevance, in fact.
I think every Muslim here in Nigeria and outside happy for holding this conference at this time, because you know all people, all Muslims around the world, even all the Christians, need peace, harmony, coexistence everywhere. So we are very happy to see this conference done on our country, our homeland, Nigeria. So we hope that you will succeed and we'll finish this conference successfully, and inshallah we gain the fruit of this country, we and other human being in anywhere, inshallah, by the grace of God. I think Fatahullah Gulen is a miracle. So I want Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to give him long life and to give him all tawfiq to do everything useful to this ummah of Muhammad, peace be upon him. Inshallah.
Thank you very much, sir. This is the conference that will build the goodwill, and my own office, we are here to add to the fact that when people have the knowledge and the skill to apply truth, sense of justice, love and goodwill, it builds what we call ethics. And that's the integrity of applying even the fear of God, our oaths, as well as the goodwill for mankind. And that even when it comes to religious tolerance, it means that whatever salama or shalom we learn from our religions.
I personally have visited Istanbul, Turkey, and I've gone around and seen what Fountain Magazine is doing and the foundation, or Ufuk Foundation, and the overall ideas of Hamid Gulam and how it has impacted on the development and prosperity of youth and humanity in general.
The conference is very, very important, particularly in Nigeria, where there is a lot of civil strife, where there are conflicts and so on. And I think that what we need here in this country is a lot of dialogue, a lot of understanding,